Okay, so this is going to be a bit of a harder video to talk about. So we're going to delve back into my history, because this particular issue, and I'm fairly certain my therapist and I are going to end up talking about it in a session, because I think it's important, and I'm probably going to end up talking, well, over time uncovering more parts of it as I go through therapy. But I think this, at least for me, is an excellent stepping stone to begin this process of clearing my personal demons and the coloration. If you've seen my history videos, you know that I openly express that I was in self-denial about who and what I am. And, I mean, to be completely honest, I think more trans individuals than you could possibly imagine feel, I mean, not necessarily the same exact things as me, but the same areas as me. I mean, we're colored. I missed the garbage can. I suck. We're colored by our experiences and our childhood. We really are. Many of us rise above our childhood upbringings through education, social circles, tragedies, and become either better or worse people. That's the same. It's the truth. Some people end up better, some people end up worse. Live with it. So, the thing I'm going to be talking about is religion for me, and my views on it, what religion did to me, and from there. So, I was born in I like to call it a religiously free household. We didn't go to church. We didn't have a set religion like Episcopal or Methodist or anything like that. My mother's grandparents were Lutherans. My mother was a Lutheran. My father was more of a deist, agnostic, along those lines. None of my brothers really subscribed to any religions, but they all believed in God. And before I go on, I believe in God. I do. I believe that there's some form of higher power, whether it's a deity, energy, whatever. I don't know. I don't have the capacity to know. None of us do. But I do believe so. I'm just going to throw that out there right now. I'm not an atheist. I kind of want to avoid, if this ever gets seen and commented on, I want to avoid the atheist comments just because people. But when I hit the fifth grade, I somehow, and how, I still to this day do not know, I got roped into, oh, I'm bad, come on, garbage can, yes, I got roped into doing choir at my grandmother's church. Actually a nice little church. My wife and I got married there despite our mutual religious views, which we'll get to in a while, but I mean, nice church, and it was June, and it had air conditioning, and she was pregnant. Air conditioning, it was worth the money. So, I started doing choir, and also in late elementary school, 5th, 6th grade, I got baptized in the Lutheran church. Went through class and all of that. Fine, good. But this really, truly, for the first time, introduced religion to me and religious belief. I cruised through a children's Bible in like a week, and I read, before I was halfway through 7th grade, I had read King James version of the Bible and one other. So, I mean, I hit religion pretty damn hard, and I believed. And I went through confirmation in middle school. And in middle school, along with studying the Bible, I also began truly hitting history pretty hard. And the thing is, studying the Bible and everything, and for about a 4-year span being a really devout Lutheran, colored my perceptions on things. I had a negative outlook on gays. I had a negative, completely evil, negative outlook on transgenders. Yeah, the irony, I am one. We'll get to that, and that's why we're talking about it. But gays, men on men, and bisexuals, I just didn't understand. I didn't get. I thought they were evil. I thought they were sinners. Never thought that about lesbians, but I mean, ask the majority of teenage boys their opinion on lesbians, and they'll tell you what's up on that opinion. But I grew out of that kind of immaturity too. Thank God. I mean, we're everybody's people. Well, I can think of some limited cases of people I don't think are people, but those are usually people like Jeffrey Dahmer and rapists, child molesters. But we're not getting into that. Anyway, so anti-gay, anti-trans, like hardcore anti-trans. But I was raised also in a household where if you hated a type of person, you kept it to yourself. I mean, everybody's entitled to their opinion, and just like assholes, everybody has one. They all smell bad. So although I was admittedly now a self-hater, people didn't really know about it because I was brought up in a mannered and educated home that if you had a prejudice, you just lived with it. You didn't spout off about it. You were polite because you accepted that there was the possibility, oh, car on the floor, that hurt, that there is the possibility that you're the one who's wrong. I mean, that's how we lived. But that doesn't matter. Point is, I was a hate monger. I really, really honestly was. And it largely came from religion. Because it was getting beaten to me that this is a sin, that is a sin, that's not what God intended, on and on and on and on. Well, high school came, and I started mellowing out about gays, because I was starting to slowly come to terms with my bisexual feelings. I mean, I never acted on a bisexual feeling until I was 17, 18 years old, but damn adware, get off my screen. Off my screen. Thank you. So, that started slacking. My views on transgenders did not, and we'll go into that here soon in a moment. But I started studying history, and I started noticing the inconsistencies between history and religion. One of the big ones that got me, and always threw me for a loop, is Christmas and the date. Now, here's the thing about the Romans. They were excellent on their censuses. They knew the population. They knew when people were born, and they kept records, and they were damn good at it. Okay, you can rely on old Roman records because they were anal retentive about it. They had a bureaucracy that actually worked. U.S. government, figure that shit out. Anyway, but it is on the record books, in the histories, definitively proven that he was born in July. I started scratching my head about that, and I started drawing the religious parallels and going, okay, Christmas, that's Hanukkah, and Yule, and the winter, that is solstice. Solstice, yes, solstice. If I'm wrong, comment on it. I mess up solstice and equinox all the time. I'm smart, but I mean, those little things in life you just jack up. So I started noticing things like that, and I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty of my in-depth views on religion and all that, just because we all have the First Amendment right to freedom of religion. I'm going to harp on religion here on broad strokes, but I'm not going, unless by some weird chance this video becomes popular and people want me to do a whole thing about my views on religion and why I don't agree with any religions, then I will, but not here. So history started coloring that, and I started becoming more open about me. And I hit a period about 6 months long when I was 15 of atheism, like throughout the whole God thing. Doesn't exist, nothing. And I admit I did that. Okay, it's the truth. I got over it. I began more identifying as Jew, but I said identifying as, I never converted or anything like that. So, hail bacon. It's Speaking of bacon, I'm going to be making chili here pretty soon, and there's bacon in chili. In my chili. Bacon. Bacon's good. So, I went to Judaism, and then in college I went to agnosticism, and am now where I am at now. But anyway, my views on gays by the time I was 16, 17, I got to the point where I didn't care, because I finally realized, it's not a personal choice, because I was definitely 17, because this is when I had my first bisexual stuff going on, and I realized I never decided I liked the male genitalia, I just did. And that's one of the reasons why I don't subscribe to religion, is because religion is, and its views on homosexuality and transgender, is that it's a choice. Like, you make a conscious decision. And I never made the choice to like vagina. I never made the choice to like penis. I just do. It's not a choice I made. And that's where it started hitting home. But I was still prejudiced against trans, because I hated myself, and I didn't want to admit how I was feeling, because I was still trying to live up to those expectations from brothers and my dad. And that's just how it went. So college rolls around, and that's where I start really encountering trans people. I had met only one trans person knowingly. Ghosts. I had only knowingly met one trans person in my entire time growing up before college. It was a female to male, and he was a dick. Real hated the world. Everybody's against him. Real jaded person. I don't know what their deal was or the cause of it. It's not my business. It's not my problem. But, I mean, that's just how they were. And, of course, that probably didn't help my views on the subject. So, go to college. I met my first true transgendered male to female individual. And I was not nice to her. I wasn't. I was still prejudiced. Largely because, looking back, when I looked at her, I saw me. And I refused to accept it. Again, religion, because I was still hung up at this point I was identifying as agnostic. I was still hung up on the whole, that's not right, you weren't made that way type of thing, so it has to be bad. That was my last shred of agnosticism, really. And minor beliefs along the lines of the monotheistic Abraham religions. If you don't know what that means, it's Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. Just FYI there. But when I looked at her, I saw me. Now, side note, I still hate her. Good reasons. Very, very good reasons. None of them to do with her being transgender. But I have plenty of reasons to not like that person on a personal level. Thank God I haven't seen her in like 3 years. It's kind of nice. So, religion was driving that, and eventually, over the last 8 months, I finally came to my definitive, more of a year, I came to my definitive opinion on religion. And I think that was one of the big stepping blocks for me for coming out, was finally removing that as an obstacle and as a back-of-the-mind identifier and coloration of my views and opinions on life and how people should be. At this point I was openly bisexual. I had my research. I had my first coming out to myself, which I believe I mentioned, and I had my big repression, and that's where I had a pseudo-religious revival, not worth talking about, but mostly back to God and religious dogma. Again, that died out pretty quickly, though, thank God. I met my wife. Well, I left U of M for the first time. My mom died, and I met my wife. So, that helped. Not my mom died. God, I miss my mom. She was a wonderful human being who probably would have disowned me for all this. Probably. Maybe. I don't know. That's the thing. I just don't know how she would have reacted. That doesn't matter anymore. But I came to my view on religion. And it's quite simple. And honestly, before you judge this view, I invite you to think about it. Think about what I'm saying. Think about what it means and think of the possibility of it. Don't instantly go yay or nay on it. Think about it. Honestly, stop and think. I don't care what your religious opinion is. I don't care if you're atheist, Jewish, Satanist, Buddhist. Well, I believe largely Buddhism is a way of life, and I highly respect Buddhism. I really do. I don't care if you're Hindu, pagan, whatever. Just stop and think about this for a minute. My view on religion is that all religions are wrong. For one overriding reason. And that is religion has been colored by human nature for thousands of years. And humans lie. Humans manipulate. Good people do, bad people do. It's just a thing. I mean, if you don't think good people manipulate, have you ever had to bribe a child or bribe a niece or nephew to get what you want them to do? Manipulation. Santa Claus. Benevolent manipulation. Tooth Fairy. Benevolent manipulation. I mean, everybody does it. It's human nature. Just like competition. It's human nature. And why certain political ideals don't work. But maybe I'll talk about that. I am going to talk about that later in another video. But because of human nature, I believe religion, not a belief in a higher power, but religion as in this is true, this is true, this is true, this is true, this is evil, this is bad. You know, religious structural belief of this is our prophet, this is what God is, this is a sin, God made the universe in 7 days. I mean, all that stuff. It's fundamentally flawed because it has been humanity's way of explaining standard phenomena in a method that was understandable for the people of the time. Okay? I mean, meteor hits the ground. You don't know how to explain it. Well, okay, God was mad and he sent a meteor. Pretty easy to... I mean, if you're primitive and not educated and don't understand things, that's an easy thing to understand. Of the great being was mad and threw something. You understand that because as a kid you threw a rock at a kid who was pissed off at you. You did it. We all did it. Come on. Stuff keeps moving in my house and I'm the only one here. Well, I should say apartment. So, there's that. Next, religion is constantly being changed throughout history. Briefly, let's look at Catholicism. Jesus died 300 years before the founding of Catholicism, which was founded by the Council of Nicaea under Emperor Constantine during a huge religious civil war against pagans and Jews. Now, the argument is those Jews were Christians, which, and you can look this up, it's true, were Christians. The original definition of Christian was a Jewish sect, and it was gaining huge momentum, where Jesus was a final prophet, a good man, and all of that stuff, and that the next thing that to come would be Christ, the Savior, and that's what they believed. They didn't believe Jesus was the Savior. They believed that he was another prophet and gave us a damn good rule to live by. I mean, throw out your religious beliefs right here. Let's just admit, do unto others as you would do unto yourself. Oh, no, sorry, do unto others as you would have others do unto you. Beautiful rule. Don't be a dick. I love it. It's literally, don't be a dick. Unless you want people to be a dick to you, don't be a dick. Gotta like that. I mean, and that transcends beliefs. But there was a huge civil war, and it was tearing the empire apart, like, big time. I mean, you had the barbarian hordes, I mean, the Vandals, the Visigoths, and everything, jacking up outlying settlements, but there was fighting in the streets. So they merged original Christianity with paganism. I mean, to form a unified religion to bring everybody together. That's why Christmas is in December. Just is. I mean, notice Judaism doesn't have a set system of angels archangels and all of that, like Christianity does. Look up your archangels sometime and read what they do. You're going to see a lot of parallels to Roman gods. Like stupid obvious parallels to Roman gods. I mean, the Romans were masters at association. I mean, Jupiter, the lead god, well, that was Zeus. Straight up Zeus. Mars is Aries. We know these things. But that's just one example of how religion was manipulated. You can fast forward 1,200 years to Richard. King Henry VIII. He couldn't divorce his wife, so he made his own version of Christianity. Completely changed up a lot of the dogma, threw a bunch of stuff out, changed it, created the Church of England. Martin Luther. Yeah, now I'll admit Martin Luther didn't set out to create new religions. He just wanted to fix Catholicism with his treatises, which were pretty good points, to be honest. I mean, if you believe in religion, it's good points. But they changed things. They just did. And you can see that evolution in every religion. Forms of paganism, forms of Wiccan. You can see it big in Islam. You can see it in Judaism, not to as high of an extent because you have to give the Jews credit. They're pretty consistent. I mean, each form, Hesiatic, Asiatic, Orthodox, Reformationalist, Traditionalist, they all have their different quirks and views, just like Methodists, Episcopals, Lutherans, and all that have different views. But they're all pretty much on the same line, and they don't evolve that much. They still do, but it's not as huge as Christianity. I mean, it's true. I mean, it's constantly evolving and changing, and based on no proof. It's based on personal prejudices, in some cases, controls, and interpretations of things that are ancient. And the more you think about it, the more you go, even if 3,000-4,000 years ago the original Jews had it right, like had it spot on right, like the whole creation story and everything was right, look at how much everything's changed over 4,000 years. And it's kind of arrogant to think that any single human being on this planet has the accurate view on religion anymore, because it keeps changing. I mean, all over the place. And the odds of any one of us, out of almost 7 billion people, being right is so asininely small. So, long story short, I don't believe in religion. I believe there's something bigger out there. Is it a deity? I don't know. Is it energy? I don't know. I don't have the capacity to know. I don't have the way to find out, so I'm not dwelling on it. There's something, I don't know what it is, but when I freed myself from religion and prejudices, I started going, shit's real. And that was where I started, again, coming out to myself slowly, very slowly, over a year process of coming out to myself to admit what I am. Because what's the Christian overriding view on transgender and why it's wrong? Because you're choosing to become another gender, and that's not what God intended for you. I'm just going, it's not a choice. I did not wake up one day and say, you know what, I want to become a woman. I didn't do that. Hell no. I mean, let's look at what I'm doing. I'm going through hormone replacement therapy right now. I am literally throwing my body into a second puberty. And I lived through puberty once as a guy. Hell no. It sucked. I've seen plenty of female puberties and menopause. And it's not something that's enjoyable. So people frequently ask me, is this something I want to do? And my answer is always no. I don't want to do this. It's going to suck. It's going to be expensive. It's going to be, in a lot of ways, painful. Traumatizing at points and times. That's something I have to do because I am female. At least on the chemical and hormone, the basic chemical developmental levels of my brain, which is not changeable. They've tried. It doesn't work. You can't change it. Up here, I developed female. Down there, yeah, yeah, on a biological standpoint, I cannot disagree. I am biologically, anatomically male, but up here, it's female, and I never made that choice. And that is where religion fails. Is it equates sexuality and gender identification as choices, and they aren't. Go up to any gay, any lesbian, any bi, any trans, any one of them, and ask them if they chose. And unless you get a rare case of somebody who was horribly, horribly abused and basically Stockholm syndromed into something, they will tell you straight up, no, it wasn't a choice. If you're straight, ask yourself, did you ever make the conscious decision to like the opposite gender? Ask yourself. Because your answer should be no. These aren't decisions that you make. And that's where religion fails, is it deals in these finite details. And my existence, the sheer fact that I did not choose to be bisexual, the sheer fact I did not choose to be female, fundamentally disproves the current dogma of religions, because they believe God is infallible. They believe that humanity is created in God's image. Okay, great, I can get behind that basic idea. God's infallible. He can't mess up. We're in His image. So, if we're in His image, we have to be fine. Personal choice is where sin comes in, but we didn't choose our genders. We didn't choose our sexualities. And if God is infallible according to your religion, how is that wrong? Murder? Wrong. Rape? Wrong. Those are choices. Those are choices and can be fueled by mental illnesses that are treatable and studyable and changeable. This isn't. So take some time. Honest to God, take time and analyze your religious beliefs. Just sit back and look at it and ask yourself those questions. Did I make that choice? Or was it there? As much as I hate to make the comparison, because I hate Calvinism, Calvin believed in predestination. Everything's determined prior to you living. So, basically, according to Calvinism, whether or not you're going to heaven or hell is determined before you're even conceived, which I think is a load of bullshit. But everything is determined for you. According to Calvinist Christianity, everything is determined for you, which means your gender, your sexuality, whether you're a murderer or a rapist, all that is determined for you. But yet, it's a sin. Just another little example of what I'm trying to impart here. Take your time. Analyze your personal belief structure. Did you make that choice? On a lot of things, the answer should be no. And that's why I don't believe in religion, is because it's so fundamentally flawed. It's so jacked up and destroyed after millennia of people using it to... Oh, my phone's ringing. I'll have to go check that out in a minute. But it's so jacked up after millennia of people doing their own thing and trying to control and trying to explain things that they didn't understand, that there's no way it's right. Maybe thousands of years ago. Maybe. And I doubt it. I supremely doubt it. But just a parting thought. I believe in God. I believe in a higher power. I believe everybody should. Atheism basically subscribes to there's nothing else out there. And I don't care if it's a deity or energy, there's something. I mean, worship the Big Bang. It's something. But I'm going to have to let you go. Think about it. Because it took me years of struggle through religion to be able to break down barriers, to admit to myself and accept who I was. Religion hurt me. Continues to hurt me. And religion more than any other thing, more than misogynists, more than really any other group of people who are anti-transgender or anti-bisexual, gay, whatever, religion hurts me the most. Because there's no reason for it. But I'm going to leave you there because I'm pretty sure that's my wife trying to get a hold of me. See ya.